Welcome. I am Asa Lanham, the Chief Executive Officer of Innovaro, and I would like to take a little of your time to introduce you to a short series of presentations we're going to be doing on innovation for executives. This is the first presentation in the series. It's targeted at an introduction and overview to innovation. In this series, what we'll be covering is the introduction and overview, and then we'll look at 6 key segments that we identify for a good innovation program, including governance, management, and then the 4 I's: ideation, incubation, investigation, and implementation. In this presentation, what we're going to look at is really kind of 3 things. One is, what is innovation? What constitutes innovation? The second is a framework to discuss it, and that's where we're going to talk a little bit more about governance and management and the 4 I's. And then last but not least, at this first introduction is, what are the innovation pitfalls? What are the kinds of things that I should be aware of that affect all programs? Innovation, a lot of people think innovation is all about ideas. It's the introduction of something new. It's a new idea or a new method or a new device. But the reality is that innovation covers a lot of other things. It's not just products and markets. It includes technologies, going from tubes to printed circuit boards. It includes services. Best Buy with some of their buyback services, Gazelle certainly with buying and reselling, processes, how do we handle our manufacturing, supply chain has been very important, operations, how we've moved from assembling things by hand to more and more automation and robots, things of that nature. So there's a lot of things that innovation can include that can be very effective without impacting your products or services. And then there are really kind of a couple of different types of ideas, and these aren't truly distinct. There's a scale that goes from the small to the large. The one that we first think of are incremental, and incremental are the smaller innovations, whether they be in services or processes or operations, whether they're changes to our existing products to make them a little better, a little more competitive, to service a few more customers, to reduce our cost in an area. And then there's disruptive, and those are the truly radical ones, and these are the ones that dramatically reset customers' expectations. The phones as we used to know them moving to smartphones, they change the basis for competitiveness. What do we compete on? And they fundamentally change industry economics as well. And we've seen these in a variety of things, with Netflix, we've seen them with Redbox. We're all familiar in today's modern environment with these kinds of changes. I want to introduce an innovation framework to you, because these are the things that we're going to be talking about in the latter parts. And this is really all about an overall innovation program, and there are really 6 parts that we look at. First is governance, and governance at a high level is simply about setting the strategic direction and the guidance for your innovation program and what you want to achieve with it, not necessarily the day-to-day management, but the overall governance of it. The second one is the management, and management really then takes over after governance and is involved with the day-to-day operation. It's the definition of the processes, it's the running of the program, it's the managing the results, it's moving things through the phases. And then we really look at what we call the 4 I's here: ideation, incubation, investigation, and implementation. And ideation is where everything starts. It's all about generating ideas, and creativity is what feeds the ideation process. Once you generate the ideas, though, you've really got to mature them. It might be a great idea or partial idea that you need to mature. You need to maybe consolidate with other things. You need to expand on that. And then, of course, it's checking ideas. Do they work? Is this something that'll work for us? Does it fit with our business model? Do we need a new business model? All those kinds of things. And then last but not least, it's really implementation. And many of the tools and processes that we've had today are all about implementation. It's once we get ready to put it into the pipeline, to put it into real engineering, to put it into manufacturing, to put it into delivery, then we understand that probably the best of all. But that's the 6 areas that we're going to look at from an innovation framework. I want to talk a little bit now about innovation pitfalls, and we're going to cover a few of these. But the number one innovation pitfall that we see and that people talk about is fundamentally the issue of bandwidth. It's just creating the time for people to work on innovation. If you say do your regular job and innovate, you may or may not get results. They often talk in computers about context switching, meaning going from one task to another, and computers are pretty fast at it. Humans are also pretty fast at it, but when you're doing a lot of it for complex things, it's troublesome, because you have to take all the things you're working on and thinking about and put them away and then bring something new out. So it's not easy to just switch from a down and dirty, heads down, getting things done mode into one that's all about innovation. So you've got to make sure there's the bandwidth for people to work on it, right? The second one is just having an adequate amount of data. It's asking people to sit in isolation without information, without any impetus, without any inputs to help do that. To spur thought is really very, very difficult to do. A white blackboard can be very intimidating. And data is really all about a foundation of strategic market insights. What's the information? What's driving us? What do we have to think about? What's the input to all this? And most companies really don't have an organized methodology or process to get new ideas. So getting the data and getting the new ideas is a hit or miss affair. The third one we really see is a combination of things, and you can see from the drawing, it's people are there and you can fall off in a lot of different directions. But it's really access to several things. And the first and the foremost in there, we talk about management support. And management support is not just the day-to-day management. It really is the sponsor of the project. It's the champion, right? Our experience has been that if you've got an innovation program or innovation projects and they really don't have a champion, they fail. Many years ago, I worked inside Amdahl Corporation, and one of the guys there that we used to talk about, new ideas were like sheep, and you were like the shepherd. And all those other people out there were wolves that wanted to kill your sheep. And your job as a shepherd was successfully take it from one step to the next to get it past all those wolves and get it delivered. And that's kind of the way innovation programs and ideas are. Without a shepherd, one of the wolves is going to get your sheep. Second one is cash. We all know the old joke about no mun, no fun. Well, the bottom line is that if you expect people who are already using existing budgets that are, quote, really focused on those, and we've all gone through how we trim all the fat out we can, then there's got to be some bandwidth in here to let that happen, both in terms of people's times and tools and things you need to do that. And then talent. These things don't happen by their own. Someone has to lead and to train other people on that. We saw this in the quality programs back in the 80s, when we had to have people that really understood what quality programs were about and to bring the others. And last but not least, the tools. Paper and whiteboards are not enough. And email is nice, but email doesn't solve that problem either. We've all been in the brainstorming sessions where you write everything up on the wall and you write it on flip charts and you write it on post-it notes, and then you get all done and it's been a great session. You've had lots of ideas, and someone looks around and says, what are we going to do with all of this? And what we do with all of this is one of two things. We either fold it all up, put it in a drawer, and it gets lost, or we take it and say, we'll have so-and-so transcribe it, and then we take what's been transcribed and put it in the drawer, and it's not enough. So we really got to have tools to help to do that, both to support it and then to sustain it on an ongoing basis. One of the second major pitfalls we see is what I tend to think of or call the best program, right? And people look around and there are a lot of very, very good innovation programs out there. And I'm certain that there are several of them that will be absolutely terrible for your organization. So the best innovation program is the one that works for your company and not some other company. Now, that doesn't mean you take a look at a variety of them, you try some out, you see which one's going to work for you, but a bad fit of an innovation program is not going to give you the results you want. So you have to be very careful about trying to wholeheartedly transplant something that worked for somebody else into your environment. One of the other ones that we find that people fall into is the classic one of diversity of thinking. And we get all the marketing people in the room, or we get all the sales people in the room, or we get all the manufacturing people in the room, or we get all the old hands in the room, right? And the bottom line is what you get innovation isolation. You get people that are all thinking the same way about the same things at the same times, right? And the extreme of that is you have specialized teams that are just for innovation. Now, that does not mean that you shouldn't have people that understand innovation and to help people to get through it. But, if you put a team whose job is innovation, first of all, I can tell you it's going to be looked at as the innovation orphanage. Well, what happened to Charlie? Well, he got assigned to the innovation team. Right. Oh, well, and obviously, not very good for Charlie. And then the other one is you need to create and disperse the teams. You need to bring them together, get them to work, and then send them back out into the other parts of the organization to disperse that. And that diversity breeds creativity, right? Because frankly, we build organizations for efficiency. We build them to be cost efficient. We build them to be effective. We build them to be timely. We build them to do all those kinds of things. they're not really built for diversity. That's not the purpose of organizations. So we really have to think across organizations and across people to maximize that diversity. The other one is picking your first projects, and this is one of the tough ones, right? You know, we had a statement a long time that we use for a lot of stuff called big rocks first, right? And the truth is that, you know, if you've got big rocks that are in front of you, sometimes you got to move some of those in order to get things rolling. When you're looking at successes with innovation, you know, big rocks are interesting, but you know, if a big rock's a 3-year project, you know, maybe it's not the right answer. So the real question is, you know, what's the blend of small, quick successes that can make a big impact? And this is part of where we come back to the discussion of governance, because it's the role of governance to make decisions about the nature of how you want your investment in your portfolio of innovation projects to go. So you've really got to think about what your projects are that you're going to kick off out of these. You know, if it's conquer the world and move on to a new galaxy, it might take you a little time. Right? One of the other ones that's important in here is connectivity, right? And we talked about diversity, and diversity is important, but connectivity is all about getting people to work together. You know, one of the people I work with that runs an innovation program, you know, made the statement, which I thought was very, very correct, that, you know, ideas are generated in the mind of one person. And that means somebody stands there or sits there and the light bulb goes off and they go, man, I got this idea. Now, the truth is it's an idea. It may not be a complete idea. It may not be a thoroughly thought out idea. But frankly, how we work through that is you know, people work together. You know, they talk to somebody about the idea. They help to tune it. They help to train and twist it. So the connectivity for people that are working on ideas is very, very important again. And that's why, you know, classically, you know, skunk works and those kinds of things are very, very difficult because the people don't get out and get among others. So that's really it on this first session. I hope it's given you some ideas of a structure, some of the pitfalls to look for, and in the next sessions we'll start to talk about what the various other portions of this are for us to be able to move forward. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.